Hi, welcome to this Open Security Summit session in December 2020 about how Owasp can help security teams. And this is part one, where we're going to focus on the Owasp guides and the testing tools. Actually, we're going to focus on the testing tools and the guides because we got some really good of the tools leaders here. So we're going to start with them. The idea behind this session is actually trying to answer a question that I asked Petra and Abbas from my security team, which was, have you looked at the latest Owasp tools? Have you looked at the latest Owasp projects? Because they have some projects that will help you with X, right? And when they kind of have like a blank stare in their face, I realized, well, here's a gap, right? And I also, even going to the conversation we're just having right now, when I said, have you reached out to the OWASP community? Have you reached out to Simon, right? Have you gone and spoke to them? Have you reached out to Grant, to those OWASP leaders who are more than happy to help? And then again, the answer was no. So I think I realized that there's a good opportunity to try to sort of make the connection. And I think what's important here, and again, Petra and Abbas, I'm going to put you on the spot, but is for you to also say, these are the problems we're having, right? This is the things we're trying to do. This is the exact problems that, where we are in our life cycle. And then it's trying to map the OWASP tools and the guides that we have here. So what I think would be great if we just go quickly to the OWASP leaders that are on the call. So you actually can say hi and put a name to a face. And then we go back at the end to Grant because he has a great slide to start. So why don't we start with you, Grant?
Sure. Hi, my name is Grant. I am fortunate enough to be serving the Owasp community as a member of the global board. I'm also very heavily involved in the education and training committee, and I am currently one of the co-leaders of the secure application security curriculum, open curriculum project. The idea is that we're going to try and grab a whole bunch of details out of all the Owasp projects and teach people what they need to know in order to be able to do well in those various projects.
Very cool.
And I will then point at Sam.
Hi there, my name is Sam. I am one of the Owasp London chapter leaders. For those of you who is from London, probably know me. I also co-lead several other projects at Owasp. I co-lead Owasp NetTacker project, which is a really new and cool kind of Owasp Swiss Army knife tool project that we have. And also on Owasp Web Application Firewalls Evaluation Criteria Project, otherwise known as Owasp WAFEC. I'm also the chair of Owasp Chapters Committee, and Owasp Chapter Committee's goal is basically to make sure that all the 250 plus Owasp chapters all around the world are active, healthy, and they have speakers, run activities, run events, and make sure everything that local chapters succeed. Yeah, I think that's probably all about me.
Cool. Simon?
Hey, Simon Bennett's here. So I'm the founder of Zap and one of the project leads. There's three of us now. So yeah, hopefully most people here will know Zap. But also a co-leader of the Vulnerable Web Applications Directory, which is a lesser known OWASP project, but we try to keep the links to all of the vulnerable web applications, including mobile applications as well, that are out there. So if you want to play around with celebrity vulnerable applications, do have a look at that. And if you know of any that aren't on there, just let us know.
Cool. Is Vandana on the call? I don't think
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So, all right. So actually, just maybe on me. So I've done a lot of projects in the past. I've been an OWASP for a long, long time. I think my most insane project was the O2 platform, which is still does stuff that not a lot of tools do, right? And actually, recently I've been publishing this. I call it OWASP Security Bot, which I recommend you guys take a look at. It automates a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff with Slack, with Jira, and with serverless APIs and all that jazz. So it's pretty cool things. So cool. So Grant, can you show us that diagram? So what I think would be interesting to do here, right? And now you also know OWASP more, right? Is I would like to capture, right? And in a way, this is kind of what I would like to see, but with only OWASP tools, right? So this is a pretty cool, sort of DevSecOps workflow where, you go from code to plan to access, train, monitor, operate, deploy, release, test, build, code, etc. Right? What I think be really cool is to do one of these, but again, in the themes, right, that we're talking about. So for example, if I look at, testing tools, right? Now, we don't just have tools. For example, security testing doesn't just happen, right, at or tools that affect security testing. They don't just happen at release or the test phase, right? They go across the board. So I guess my first question, right, and you guys know Owasp these days better than I do, right? When we look at testing tools, right? What do we have? What are the projects that Owasp has that fit that description? And I think, of course, Zap is one of them, but even Zap has several variations, right? You already got what's it called? The HUD? No,
The HUD.
The HUD,
Yep.
right? Yeah, so that's one that should be, referenced here, right? I was trying to find that. So what tools do we have, and where would you put on this pipeline, right? And then we'll try to create a visualization of it for next time. But where would you put Zap, for example, here?
I mean, Zap typically comes in the test phase, but I mean, I think it's good for developers to use Zap while they're actually implementing things. You don't actually have to deploy anything in order to use Zap if you've got something locally. And I mean, is testing still? I mean, you're still looking at unit tests here at that phase. Where would you put unit tests? Because I'll definitely put Zap in that kind of space as well.
Yeah, so I would put the unit test in the code part, right?
So in that case, I mean, I think Zap. I would put Zap in both code and test.
What about release?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly did that at Mozilla. Whenever we pushed things from dev to stage to prod, we had automatic Zap scans running at the same time. So they'd have to pass those in order to get to go between the different phases. And then I mean, operate as well. I was always running Zap on prod services. So I think that's so you could almost put it in the operate or monitor kind of phase as well. And of course, you put it in training as well, because you want to help people. If you can use great projects like Juice Shop, you want a testing tool like Zap to play with.
Yeah.
So the irony is that although I put Zap on this chart only under test, the truth is that the client that I'm currently doing it at is exactly as Simon's described it. Like from the coding side of things, once you've built enough components that you can run something locally as a dev, right the way through to operate, where you're actually hitting endpoints that are running in production to confirm that you are in fact running the right levels of SSL or whatever it is you're wanting to test for. And yeah, during the train and the assess phases, those are key places where you can start using Zap against things like JuiceShop. In fact, I'm trying to convince SecureFlag to implement a number of test cycles with Zap as the testing tool built in, rather than having to hit it with a with a random other API access tool here.
Yeah, and may I just add that obviously Owasp Zap is a DAS tool, so it's a dynamic application security testing tool. But obviously I'm going to use a very hot keyword of the day, which is DevSecOps. Zap perfectly integrates into your DevSecOps pipelines. And for those of you who don't know, you can now use Zap as an extension in popular environments such as Azure DevOps in Microsoft, or you can use GitHub Action with Zap, and that means that just running a scan of your application is as simple as dragging and dropping an Owasp Zap build step into your pipeline. And of course, it's all free and open source and highly customizable. And of course, I would like to add a few more things that this is actually one of the very frequently asked questions, is that Zap also lets you test your APIs, which I think is absolutely fantastic, and microservices. So I think Simon has some great talks that you can watch on YouTube. Simon, probably you can highlight those a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a load of YouTube videos. Well, videos generally, some are now going on YouTube. So we got zaproxy.org is the Zap website, and there's a video section, and there's 3 ongoing series of videos. Actually, one set of videos on automation authentication. They're a kind of longer workshop. Then there's Zap in 10, which are like 10 minutes on different subjects, and a kind of Zap deep dive that I'm doing with StackOrg now, which are like 30 minutes on different subjects. And the last 2 are all, we're carrying on doing more videos as we go along.
Petra, actually, just before you go to that, so would you agree that these are the 4 areas that I put on the screen, right, that we would say Zap is very strong at? The codes, the training, the testing, and the operation.
I'm good with that.
Integration.
And with there's a Zap plugin for Jenkins, which would allow you to integrate it as part of deploy and release as well, which I guess is just testing as you move towards the production phases.
Yeah, but it doesn't help with the release itself, right?
Yes, that's true. It only provides you some kind of level of security assurance that your release was successful, and that what you have running the other side of the releases.
But that, you can argue that's the testing of the release, right?
Yeah, and it's also what you're doing in operate.
Yeah, but operation, it means that you actually run in production, right? Like you can, I would argue that part of secure operations is to run tests in production, right?
Well, that's probably coming security monitoring, I would say, rather than operation, because
does Zap actually give you a monitoring capability?
Well, it does if you use it on your prod sites.
Yeah, so you monitor the prod site, right?
Yeah.
But doesn't give you a dashboard per se.
No.
Right? And actually, I think and this actually just raised a very interesting question, right? Which I think we should have a go at, which is define the terms of this, right? To actually have a good definition of what we mean by each of these words, right?
Yeah. And I think the reality is that there's, I mean, I've drawn some nice hard borders here to make this a pretty slide, but the reality is that it's very fluid, right? Build, test, release, deploy all kind of happen at one time. It's not very distinct borders between them.
Yeah, but each one has a center of gravity, right? Like you could say coding is development, planning is what you plan to do development, assessment is how you actually, do security assessments and code reviews, right? Training is training, right? Like, each of these have a very defined, center of gravity. Of course, testing, I would argue you want to test everywhere, right? Like you don't just test, you do unit tests here, but then this part is almost like that testing part there is actually, again, there's a little flow, but you want to be releasing all the code, right? So this, I think there's correlations.
But I think that's the problem there. I mean, on the left-hand side, there are clearer phases, but on the right-hand side, it's a bit more complex. And I mean, in some organizations, the build, test, release, deploy might take days or weeks. In other cases, it might take minutes. You might go through the kind of build, test, release, deploy in a matter of minutes in some places. So, and you could argue that you'll be doing testing as part of the build, testing as part of the release, testing as part of the deploy, testing as part of the operate. So it's much more blurred on the right-hand side, I think.
Yeah, but you would argue that in that case, as soon as you get something up, you want to put app on it, right? So like you say, you want to run Zap immediately, ideally as soon as you can in the code, right? Because that gives you that visibility.
Yep.
So Petra, you had a question on APIs.
Yeah, so we had it was probably 6 months ago now. It's a project that we paused, but we had a REST API that we were trying to test with Zap, and we I can't remember the exact details, but there was a couple of obstacles, and in the end, we ended up using Postman to help us integrate it into, GitHub Actions, because that's what we were aiming at. I was just wondering if this has anything changed since then. Is this something new? Because you were saying that now you can put, Zap into GitHub Actions, that you can just create a workflow file. Is this something new that's come out? I'm just wondering what are the capabilities of testing REST APIs with that?
Do you have a definition of your API?
Yes, yeah, somewhere.
What format? What format is it in?
I'm not sure.
So we support.
It was 6 months ago.
Yeah, so we support OpenAPI and GraphQL. We do have a SOAP add-on, which we took off the marketplace because there's some problems, but it's being fixed right now. So we should very soon have SOAP. We've got OpenAPI, we've got GraphQL. Obviously, Swagger's really OpenAPI. What other formats should we support? That's the question. So we are definitely looking towards supporting any common formats of APIs, because what you can do is, if you have something driving the API, which typically have, if you put Zap in between whatever's driving the API and the API, then Zap will just be a proxy and record all these things. So if you've got a web front end, modern web front end, which is driving the API, you can just put Zap there. But obviously, if your web and front end doesn't hit all of the endpoints, then Zap won't know about them.
It doesn't.
The biggest problem with DAS tools in general is exploring the application. So SAST has an advantage here because you point at the source code, it knows where all the source code is, it can go and find everything. DAS tools, it's not just that Zap, it's all of them, have to explore the application. And for web applications, we've got two spiders. We've got a traditional spider, just finds links. We've got a modern spider that launches browsers and clicks on things. That can cope with any modern applications using JavaScript to generate links, but that's no good if you've only got the API. So what we then rely on is the API definitions, which we can then import to the ones I've mentioned. You can always, if you've got a different form of API definition, you can then script that. But the other great way is, if you've got unit tests, proxy your unit tests through Zap, because that again just trains Zap. So if you've got unit tests, proxy them through Zap. Actually, so that's one of the best things you can do, because if you've got a web application with a UI, something designed for humans, hopefully the humans will be the best person to actually explore that UI. But of course, then you need somebody to actually sit there and go through things. If you've got comprehensive UI tests like Selenium, that's nearly as good, or maybe even better if they're more comprehensive. So any kind of tests that drive your application, whether it's driving the API directly or the UI, those are brilliant. Just proxy them through Zap, and then Zap just sees everything and then can start attacking it realistically.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
We'll be looking into that hopefully again soon, if the project comes back to life, or for any other new application. Thanks, Simon.
Great, no problem.
But the big trick there, what Simon was talking about, is to run the QA tests, right? That the team is developing, because so you run that through the proxy, so that basically you're teaching Zap, right, how to access certain pages. The thing that you need, which is part of what we're doing on a new project, is you need to be able to create disposable targets, right? So you can really go to town, right? So the flow here is that we automate the creation of the Kubernetes environment, and then you basically do the automation. You record with Zap, and then you really turn up the volume, right? Actually, Simon, a question for you: have you done cases where you put the Zap results in GitHub?
Yep. So the GitHub actions actually do that. The GitHub actions will raise GitHub issues. I think you can choose whether you have one issue per type of vulnerability found, or just one issue for everything. And we've actually got Zap blog posts showing how we do this on zaproxy.org. So we do it ourselves. Even though zaproxy.org is a static site, we still attack it. But I think one of the key things is, I think traditionally a lot of people haven't done DAS testing because, well, if you're using a commercial tool, it might cost money to actually run every time. And also, if it's externally hosted, you've then got to get access to the target system. So you've either got to wait until it goes live, which is not great, or you've got to do some sort of getting through the firewall. If you're using a tool like Zap, where you can, it's free, it's open source, you can run it anywhere. You can run it in development, you can run it in QA, and you should really, as soon as you've got a system that you can run up, you should spin up an instance. It's so easy to run up systems now, whether using Docker or whatever container type thing you want. Spin it up, attack it with Zap, and you can Zap. We've got Docker images, so it's really easy to spin up Zap now automation. So bring up your application, bring up Zap, attack it with Zap, get the results, do things, and you can do this testing as soon as possible and repeat as often as possible.
What about Kubernetes? Have you guys running Kubernetes?
So that's not, I've seen some, there's another open source project that provides that. I've not tried it myself. I've not really used Kubernetes. It's not my part of my world. But what we try and do, we try and make sure that Zap is as scriptable as possible. So obviously we've got the Docker images, but you can just fire up Zap in whatever environment, as long as you've got Java 8+, then you can control it via our own API, or we've got a load of example scripts, and there's scripts included with the Docker images and things.
I think the main problem, Dinis, with our ICAP project in Zap was the fact that it was a protocol, because I think Zap only works on HTTP, am I correct? And because HTTPS,
well,
yeah,
well.
But not ICAP, because we are using ICAP for one of our projects. And I think that was the issue with Zap on that.
Yep.
We've never had a request for that before, but hey.
Web UI now, that we can use. But Simon, it should run okay in Kubernetes, because once you got a Docker, once you Dockerize, it's just creating a Helm chart, and it should be easy to run in. Because actually, Petra, the way to do this is you almost need to view Zap as almost a chaos kind of monkey kind of agent too, where you deploy that inside the pods, right? And then that should start attack everything that moves inside the pod, right? To generate lots of traffic inside the environment. So we can actually use even that one to attack it.
Or even plug it in as a proxy between every interaction that happens inside the Kubernetes cluster.
Yep, correct.
As Simon mentioned, that's how we do most of our testing. We actually run it as a proxy, as a sidecar proxy to everything we run. And that way, all the traffic is always security testing all the time.
Nice.
Very cool. So Simon, if we look at Zap HUD, right, would you still put in those 4 things, or is it that it has a bigger sense of gravity?
So the HUD is very much a manual tool. So the whole idea was to provide a new type of interface for people. So as a graphical interface, it's aimed at people. So it is training definitely, and it's in the manual test phase. But if we're talking about automation, then I don't think the HUD has a place, because all we're doing is actually, so the HUD just basically brings information about Zap into the browser and allows you to see things, interact with Zap. But that's only really useful for a human. If you want to automate things, then the HUD actually uses the Zap API. So
what about what we say here, assess and train?
Assess and train. And if you do, one thing, we're talking about technology pipelines here. We still need the manual thing. I think we should stress that automated testing will not find as many problems as a skilled manual pen tester. So if it depends on the type of application you're developing, but if it's a critical application to your company, you should seriously look at manual pen testing, and whether you get your own security team to do that or another company. But the advantage of doing the automated pen testing is you should find the kind of common vulnerabilities, and that means you get more value out of your external pen test team. We've had that. I used to arrange pen tests at Mozilla, and it was great fun, because we'd only do that on services we were actually, we only put stuff live we were really confident about, and you get the external pen test team coming in all confident, start away, and then they wouldn't find anything, and towards the end of the week they were working really hard, which is great. We got some really great findings out, but they had to work for them. We got our money's worth.
Very cool. All right, so should we go around what other tools we got? So can we look at, for example, AMAS tool, because I think that's it's a really cool tool, right? That Owasp has.
Yes, the mass is awesome, and that's of course another tool that can fit under testing, but also under monitoring as well, because that helps you find your attack surface, because it helps you find everything that the hacker could see when they're trying to find out everything about your organization externally.
Yeah. So where will you put where will you put it?
Well, I would put it into test and monitor as well, because it's not that useful during the coding. It's more for the when it's in production, also for your security teams to understand what's out there. And I think it's actually quite important, because these days, when we have things like clouds, right, there is a problem of shadow IT, when you can have development teams spinning up websites and web services and microservices and various clouds, and you as a manager know absolutely nothing about them. And AMAS kind of solves this tool, because it allows you to find out everything which is visible to, let's say, to the hacker who is sat outside of the organization about your organization. Will help you find all your subdomains, all your autonomous systems, and it will actually draw you a very cool graph. And you can see in that graph interconnections in different countries and different autonomous systems. And some of the large organizations which might have thousands and thousands of subdomains, so you find it very, very useful.
Yeah, let me just share it here, because I think, can you stop sharing?
Sure.
And I'll share here, because I was actually capturing that. So cool. So let me just share my
Yeah, if you go to the project's website, Dinis, there are a couple of videos you can see. And
yeah, no, I've always been
share.
on my screen. Cool. Right, can you guys see that? Yep. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So that's the Hamas stuff. Hamas.
Yeah, if you go to the GitHub repo, I think the README on the GitHub repo has some of the diagrams and screenshots, so you can see.
Yeah, there on the right-hand side, just under code repository.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if you scroll down, yeah, there you go. And there's a bit of a cool video which shows you. If you scroll down as well, there's information on how to install it. And this is the graph I was talking about. So this could be your organization, and this is how a hacker can see. And this is where this visualization, it's absolutely awesome. Because,
now you can see why I like this tool, right?
Yeah, I know you like your graphs, Dinis. So this is absolutely awesome, awesome graph. And I have to say that this is probably one of the first Owasp projects which was written in Go, and it started as very simple, but now it's a mature and flagship project, and it's used by bug bounty hunters, by security teams, by hackers all over the world. Because the various methodologies that it's using.
Here, right? So if you look at this. So where would be that center of gravity for this guy here?
Probably, in my opinion, it probably goes under monitoring, to be honest.
Cool. So good stuff. All right. Yeah. So this is definitely a very cool project. So Abbas, one for you to take a look at.
I saw it has a Docker file as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is okay. We'll definitely look at that.
Yeah, because the problem, with the explosion of domains that we're having these days, right?
I know.
Well, so this is the tool which can actually help you find out all of them, right? And if you have any developers or any legacy domains which were launched some time ago, right? Also based on autonomous system, on whois data, AMAS is absolutely awesome. It will just try and go and dig the internet. It will do even passive. It will like Google for any reference to your subdomains from the past, and will discover and dig out everything possible. So it's a cool awesome tool as well.
We definitely need this.
All right. So what's the next one? What should we talk about? Projects. Actually, let's go to the top one. So which one's here?
Yeah. So I think what you should do, if you click on just on the projects word, then Dinis.
Yeah.
And scroll down to the flagship. You see, these are all the flagship projects. So these are all the nice, mature, finished projects. And I think we probably only have time to talk about these today, even though there are probably about 200 more projects you can see at the bottom.
Yeah.
They're
Well, let's talk about
also,
this one here. So the fact dojo, again, I think I need to go to the site to see it, right?
yeah, if you click on the code repo, yeah.
So this is the one, actually, you know what I was talking about? I think this is the one that has a spec. There you go. Look at this, how cool it is.
Defect Dodge is one of the coolest Owasp projects. It's basically
Yeah.
your vulnerability management dashboard, which aggregates scans from various security tools, paid and free ones, including Owasp Zap, and puts them all into one dashboard for you. And you can manage everything. You can manage your penetration tests, your dust scans, your
That is really cool.
composition scans, and you can see how many critical highs, mediums, lows you have across your organization. You can drill down and across various test results from different tools and bring them all into one cool dashboard. And it also has a search feature. So it's like Google. You can go and Google all the test results from all your security tools all in one place.
Very,
And if you
very
search,
cool.
if you search for the XSS, for example, you'll go and find all the vulnerabilities, all the XSS vulnerabilities across everything.
Can we integrate this with Jira?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
I think I saw it is already.
I was
Forgive
gonna
me,
say.
folks. Alan Jenkins here. I've been lurking because this is not my familiar territory, but that Defect Dojo looks highly useful. But Denis, if I may, your Infinity Loop, are you trying to map the Owasp flagship and other projects so that somebody like me can see where they might play in the wider picture?
Yeah.
Because that's where I've just been on the Owasp
Yeah, that's what we're
just
trying to
this
do, right?
page for the first time in too long, and I'm frankly amazed at the range of projects that are in there, but I'm also a little nonplussed as to what does what without going into each one.
Yeah.
So this picture view of how they play and how they hopefully integrate would be very useful. But I think my macro comment would be, I don't think you're publicizing this enough beyond the cognoscenti, because I didn't know about Defect Dojo until just now, and I'm not a software developer, but I can see how I might use that or how I might expect others to use it who are giving me information.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge, right? You know, I think the point here is that you know, there's so much goodness, right, in here, that you know, we need to share. I agree. Simon, where do I find the page for Owasp HUD?
ZA proxy.
Yep. So
Sorry.
Oh no, so it's HUD, HUD.
Yeah,
H
almost
you-
HUD.
D
H
heads up display.
Oh, heads HUD.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. There you go. That one. Oh, the heads.
Hey, I'm feeling smart now because I guess that's what that was.
And literally, Denise, if you run it, you'll see that it's just you're looking at your web application that you're testing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it
No,
has details on the side around it.
I know the tool. I think I was there the first time, one of the first times that Simon announced it. I'm a big fan of this tool. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
And cool. And then this one, just to key, this was train and assess, right? I remember correctly, right? So we said, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we got Zap on train, test, code, operate. We got the HUD on train and assess. We got Defect Dojo on, well, this is on code, right?
No, Defect Dojo probably goes under monitor and operate, Dinis, because this is more of a manager's tool. This is your bird's eye view of all vulnerabilities found by all the tools in your organization.
Yeah, but
So
we
this-
expose developers to it too, right?
yeah, they're probably looking at it through Jira though.
Yeah.
So yes, but they're probably looking at it through Jira.
Okay. All right. Cool. Good stuff. Yeah, this is one of those amazing projects. I agree. All right. Dependency check.
Yeah,
Yep.
dependency check is another great one. So Grant, I think you're using it, right? In
Yeah,
some
we are.
of your projects. Yeah.
So it's SCA, right? It provides you with a great idea of what's running, what libraries are included in whatever software you're testing,
Yep.
and what vulnerabilities those libraries might include.
Yeah, also known as your software bill of materials, right? So
Yeah.
it basically will go through your project and will find all the dependencies, all the libraries, all their versions, and will cross-map them versus NIST CVE database, and will give you a report. It will say, okay, this particular version has these vulnerabilities, the CVSS score, what are they, high, medium, low, and scored under CVSS. Yeah, and also if there is all the versions available, and if your developers are using an older version, I think particularly jQuery is one of these libraries that a lot of developers like to use the really old versions. And obviously dependency check will help you find outdated jQuery and lots of other libraries, and also provide you with advice what's the nearest version you should upgrade to get rid of the vulnerabilities, of known vulnerabilities, of course.
But it's
I
kind
have
of
a question.
and
Oh,
above.
sorry. Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Is it the same as GitHub's Dependabot? How is it different?
Not really. Dependabot will suggest you to upgrade things, of course, if you're using GitHub. But if you're not using GitHub, right? If you're using other repo, then this is when dependency check will be the most useful. But yeah, GitHub is now gradually integrating security features, including SCA, and now I think even SAST tooling into GitHub offering. So I think you will find some of these things already being present in GitHub.
And I mean, GitLabs use Zap for dust testing. I guess they'd have their own SAST options as well. So I think we can see security testing moving into these kind of environments as either standard options or paid for options.
So where would you guys put code, build, sort of, and I kind of put these on the dependency track too, right? So dependency track is another really cool project that has some really cool dashboards. Look at that. So you can actually see the dependencies and visualize them, right? That's also quite a nice UI to play around with. One of the things that'll be good to do is actually track which one of these actually have Docker images and all that stuff. I think most of them do now, right? But right, cool. So where would you put it? Code and build?
And possibly in plan as well, because you want to make sure that you're picking libraries that are safe libraries, that don't currently have issues or that are still being maintained.
Yep.
Yeah, totally agree, because this is more of a software composition analysis.
Hey, Vandana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I missed you. Can you give a little introduction about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I am Vandana. I am talking from India, Rajasthan, and I'm one of the global board of directors at Owasp.
Cool. Yeah, so just to give you an idea, so what we've been doing here is we're kind of going through, we kind of found, we kind of adopted the sort of DevOps wheel, because actually Grant had a really cool visualization of it, which was sort of, inspiring now based on this, which is kind of sort of the idea of what we're trying to map here, which is how to create maybe a version of this where it kind of shows, where does the Owasp tools fit into each of these areas. So then we're now going through the tools. So for example, Zap is train, test, operating codes. Zap HUD is just addressing train, assess and train. Defect Dojo is monitor and operate. AMAS is on monitor. Dependency check is on plan, code and build. So let's look at the next one. Well, Juice Shop is definitely training, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
I think the Juice Shop is square on the training bit, right?
Dennis, I will share the original wheel with you so you can actually plug it into the slider as well. And I think Vandana has a presentation that does a lot of this heavy lifting.
Cool. Hey, if you have a presentation that does that, please share, right? I'm just...
Sure. Give me 2 minutes. I'll send you the link.
Cool. Well, you can share with your screen if you want. What's this? Mariam, that's a new one. What does this one do?
Yeah, this is another really cool
Ah,
project. Again, people
see.
probably don't know about it. It's quite recent. This is open source intelligence. This is no, you do know Spiderfoot, Dinis. So this is a similar thing.
Cool. There you go. So there's one of the new boys on the thing.
Hmm.
Or actually, okay. So this is definitely on the test, right?
That's more monitor, right? Because that's
It's monitor.
production. It's open
Right.
source intelligence.
Oh yeah, open source intelligence. You're right. Open source intelligence. Yeah, monitor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So for example, what you can use Mariam for, okay, just to put in perspective, you can find out if your developers are leaking their personal data in other GitHub repos, for example, or on LinkedIn, or in Tor and dark web, right? So get the email address of your organization, feed it into Mariam, and it'll go and search social networks, do some Google docking search, and LinkedIn, GitHub repos, and it'll find out if there are any data leaks.
Very
It'll find
cool.
your usernames and all the social networks as well. So that's pretty useful tool as well.
Cool. So the broad security rule sets, where you guys would put this?
So that's
monitor?
monitor and operate.
Yeah, because that's a WAF, like WAF rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And if you aren't using that for your WAF, you shouldn't be running a WAF. Like genuinely, don't bother, because you probably got it in monitor mode and isn't actually blocking anything.
Me and Sam, we can go on big rants about WAF, right?
Oh, yes. Well, but just in case, if you want to find out how to evaluate it, there's an Owasp WAFEC project, but it's not the flagship one. But there is a
Which one is
project,
this one? So
WAFEC, WAF EC, WAF evaluation criteria.
yeah.
So basically, this is quite an old project, but this was an effort to basically help organizations to evaluate web application firewalls. What do you should be looking for?
Does it always return don't buy it?
And not really. It depends on what you're looking for.
That I'm going to go contribute to the project so that it always returns don't buy it.
Also, don't forget, there is a project which is a web application firewall from Owasp called CRS, right? And
So by the way, so what this one here, right? So sorry, what do we use this for? OWTF?
that's the offensive web testing framework.
Okay, so that's a
a
framework.
pen testing. That's a
Okay.
pen testing.
So that's a guide. All right, the Shepherd that's another security training platform, right?
Yep.
Yeah, again, training.
Yep. So that's on the training side of things. And here we go, train. And then we got top 10, and then testing guidance app. There you go, man. We've done all the flagship.
That's pretty good.
Cool. So actually, it'd be quite cool to do a visualization of this, right?
Absolutely, this is really helpful. And what Grant was mentioning, that I created the presentation on how to use open source projects for running an AppSec pipeline.
Do you want to share your screen?
So let me just open that. I will just check if I have. Yeah. I'll share my screen. Are you able to see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, this is the basic presentation. So this is the framework. Here, requirements gathering, we have RAT, security RAT. Then we have SKF, because SKF gathers all the security requirements, and it is very well integrated with ASVS as well, and Juice Shop, and it has its own labs. Yeah.
So Dennis, it's
Grant,
actually
you
one
want
of
to say
the
something?
flagship. Yeah, one of the flagship projects you didn't highlight on was the ASVS.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going for tools, right? This is more
technically this was a frameworks and tools, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, you're right. But I was just, that first part was I was going to the tools. I was going to do the second part. I was just going to do I was going to go back into the tool. I'm going to do documents.
Yeah, so SKF is also came as a tool. It is a tool. It's basically a downloadable and installable knowledge base. It's a wiki. So in your organization, right, where do developers find out about security, about vulnerabilities, about how to code securely, right? So Owasp SKF is a project that you can just download, spin up, and install in your network, and voila, you've got a internal wiki which will have lots of pages on it explaining what vulnerabilities are, how to deal with them in different programming languages. I think that at least 4 or 5 popular programming languages included. And also the latest version of SKF, if you haven't checked out this project recently, they also started doing labs, which are all containers. So you can just, if you're a developer and saying, okay, I've got this cross-site scripting thing, how does it work, right? Of course, you can read on the wiki page, you can look at the samples of the code, of vulnerable code and how to fix it, but you can also download and spin up a container in minutes and actually try it live and an example and understand what's actually happening.
Yeah, true.
It's a
And this
really
is
cool
like
project.
yeah, true. This is a complete package. Even you can run the whole project there. You can define the requirements, what are needed, and when it has labs, it has code snippets for the developers that they can understand how a vulnerable code would look like. And there's another thing is that you can track the requirements from one phase till the end. If there is any requirement that changes, it can track. And based on the maturity level of your app, it can define those requirements for you, and you can select which ones are relevant for your project.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those where, you know, I was and Petra, you guys need to take a look at, because when we talk about creating guidance for developers, right, it's really good.
True.
Yeah, reference
And
Will do.
yeah, then we have ThreadDragon, we have Pythium, again wonderful projects.
Yeah.
Then for secure code review, we have code review checklist, which is a pretty old one where people need to help, and people can help, and we can start reviving this because I think that was updated in 2017. So probably
Interestingly,
people can help. Yeah.
Vandana, I've actually had some really good feedback on the code review checklist project, despite the fact that it's, well, 3 years old. Well, 3 years the last time it was updated. Apparently, the guidance that's in there is still really, really relevant. Pretty good.
Yeah, I can just say that even though some of the projects and documentations probably have not been updated for a while, you have to remember that there aren't that many new vulnerabilities, and most vulnerabilities that we're seeing in applications, they're still the same ones we have been seeing for the past 20 years. So security coding guidelines, which were created 2 years ago, are still perfectly valid.
Yeah, unless there's language specific things and it's a new language you're dealing with, or Scala or something, a variation of language. But on that, the cheat sheet.
Yeah, I am totally in love with the new website that they have, the kind of things that they are putting into it. Even they have added cheat sheet series for Docker as well, and they keep updating it. So it's very recent, and it's totally relevant for developers, for security testers, or anyone who wants to understand security well. So this one is really amazing. And even recently I had a talk with the cheat sheet series leader as well. So they've revamped everything, and they're coming up with new things as well.
I do want to point out that the project logo, that I want a T-shirt of, because it's true. Life is short. AppSec is tough, so you should cheat.
Yeah. Now this is I think one of the most successful projects, right? Because this cheat sheet has been spectacular.
Yeah, I'm looking at cheat sheets a lot, and I also like it. It's so simple and so it's nicely done.
Then we have Go Core Secure practices, and then we were talking about dependency check and dependency track. So dependency check is one thing which I actually used in a lot of my projects, because this was really helpful with the dependencies and third-party libraries. It's amazing. You just need to tweak a bit, and it's really helpful. At least for setting up the benchmark, it's relevant. Then for vulnerability testing, we have web security testing guide, API security project, mobile security testing guide. We have ZAP, we have AMAS, and defect tracking, we have defect dojo. For defensive controls, we have CCard, we have mod security core rule set. Then we have proactive controls. For training and awareness, we have WebGoat, we have Security Shepherd, we have DevSlop, then we have Juice Shop. Juice Shop is doing so much. Like Zap project, Owasp, Juice Shop is also coming up with new things every now and then. I can see John doing so many things. Like even this has been integrated with SKF, which we were speaking. I'm sorry if I've taken your name incorrectly. Then you have top 10. Yeah, Sam, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say that there was a talk at the Owasp Germany chapter that project leader of Juice Shop, Bjorn, presented, and obviously I tweeted the link to it, so you will be able to find it out, because there are lots of new features that they keep adding to Juice Shop, and this year actually has been very successful for them.
I still want to get to the point where I can buy T-shirts and hoodies with Juice Shop logo on it in the Juice Shop app.
Wow.
Safely, of course.
Yeah. So then we have ASVS, mobile top 10, mobile ASVS, top 10 privacy risk. Then automated threats is something which is really interesting. I think we can build on top of it. So there are so many things that can be done around automated threats. For knowledge management, we have, again, I've mentioned ASVS, SKF. Snakes and ladder is something very, very interesting. And I want to get to know more about this project, and cornucopia, for sure.
Yes, Dinis. So this is not a technical tool for developers, but it will definitely help security teams and will help development teams to become secure. Yeah, just play a card game during your lunch break.
Actually,
A board game.
That one is to figure out how to do that remotely now, because you know everybody's now remote, right? So
I actually did a masterclass. Cornucopia is one of my favorite projects. I actually did a masterclass recently with a commercial company that sells already printed decks of cards for you. And they're trying, they've done two things. They've created an open source project that allows you to deal out the deck to all the players. So you just dump in a list of players' names and it automatically assigns cards to those individuals. So then you just send those individuals each their own, these are the cards that have been dealt to you remotely. And then obviously they want everyone to have a deck of cards in their hands, and they're selling. So these are the decks that we the Owasp Foundation produce. And these are the decks that they produce, which are substantially larger. And what they want you to do is obviously everyone has a whole deck, which is great, but it's still paper in your hand. I am trying to get to find some time to actually create a mobile app, because it can't be that hard. It really, a little bit of React Native, and I should have something that will allow us to connect to a service that deals cards.
all right, so on that one, I'm going to have to be really rude here, because we actually, annoyingly, I think we only use one Zoom account. So we will change it for tomorrow. I'm going to end it. We need to start the next one. So we'll come back tomorrow and we'll continue. Just one little thing. I've also already put it on the site. So you already put the slide I was creating, I'll put here. And actually, if you could share that link, I could also add it there. And then we can continue tomorrow.
Cool.
Everybody for participating.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, I think you can stop the recording now.